All right, a lot of news today. The biggest news is that we are going to buy AMD. Tech Syndicate is going to buy AMD. We just need a few people from the audience out there to join us, and then we'll get together and fix everything. You ready for this, Wendell?
Well, I mean, after all, their stock is at $2 a share at this point. I mean, it's sort of low compared to the historical average. So, I mean, it seems like somebody could buy them, if not us.
This and other asinine things coming right up in the tech. What a crazy place the world is, right? Where stocks can drop like this. We'll get to the AMD thing in just a minute. I guess we could cover the other things first. It's been a long week. A lot of hardware came in, and that's been keeping me up late at night. What keeps? Are we even allowed to tell the audience what keeps you up late at night?
I don't know. We've got a sort of fun video coming to Beer Games Beer. So me and some people got together and we're going to do some videos and just see how it goes. And the name of our little gaming troupe is going to be called Professionals Gaming Poorly.
I watched some of the preview stream. They had it up and I jumped on the URL that was an unlisted URL. And I actually laughed more than I laughed at pretty much anyone I've seen on Twitch lately. Everyone's trying too hard on Twitch. You guys are just being idiots. So could be fun.
So it turns out a bunch of like idiot asshole programmers tooling around a game that's full of bugs and insanity is mildly entertaining. Maybe. Well, probably not. Actually, we don't care. We're going to do it because it's fun, and subscribe or don't, we don't care.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to be playing the game anyways, you may as well click the button and hit stream. And if anybody else wants to watch, then they can. Anyway, let's go over and check out what's happening with Reddit. So, Shitstorm Reddit this week, and Ellen Powell, the current CEO, said, "You know what? I'm just going to step back." She's having a really hard time, and a lot of people are saying nasty things about her on the internet. And she wrote a really interesting letter as she was leaving. And if you look at it, she's like, "Guys, I'm just a person, and I'm trying to balance what's best for the community with what the board wants," because she said that the board came to them and they wanted some things that she felt were unrealistic without compromising the integrity of the community. And some of the things that they have been doing recently, the community has been screaming and yelling about and being like, yeah, this is already compromising the whole laissez-faire sort of atmosphere that Reddit has been. That's sort of what they've been for the last few years. And everyone's going over to vote. So vote. Yeah, vote. It sounds weird when you say it out loud. I've only read it. I've never actually said it. Maybe people will be saying vote more, but their servers have been crashing because it's sort of a Reddit clone. And everything's crazy right now. So the person who's taking over for her, let me just go back to the screen here, is the same guy who used to be the Reddit CEO. So we'll see how all that works out. But I think I think with Reddit, the thing that the CEO is important, but the board has changed. And that is where most of the changes have come from. The board has changed. They need to make the site a little different so that it can be profitable and marketable in the future from a standpoint not of the community. It's a point where they're like, well, you got this huge community, but the advertisers look at this and there's a subreddit for beautiful dead girls. And they're like, yeah, we would love to advertise on your website because you have a big community, but what the fuck is this? So that's the problem. The board has changed and they're looking at these things.
We have our own version of that problem because when we say things that's like, yay, communism, and then the hardware people are like, no, wait, now what are you putting on the channel? What now? Which is why we have Tech Syndicate Hardware. By the way, go and subscribe to Tech Syndicate Hardware, the most amazing hardware channel on the internet.
Second most. I don't know. The Hardware Canucks is pretty good. Paul's Hardware is pretty good too.
Yeah. We ain't got nothing on those guys. I mean, honestly.
Well, I mean, I don't, but we're working harder. I'm gonna be completely honest, guys. I focus less on hardware than I do on a lot of the other things that are going on behind the scenes, and we're gonna be doing a lot more fun content. We do a lot of fun content, but there's stuff that just I don't have time to edit. So, I mean, hardware is not my number one focus, and everyone out there knows that. It's the focus is community and the culture for I think me. I'm not sure about all of us. Hardware is extremely important because it powers the things that we do. And that is why I like hardware, because it gives us, it's the tools. That's not the end of the statement. It's the tool we use to get something done. So anyway,
We can also combine like hardware by itself is not really all that interesting. It's the projects that we do with them. And so we've got a video coming up where we're going to do some crazy SLI stuff with the 980 Ti, and I think maybe possibly a 390X, not a Fury X, because no one loves us that much. I mean, come on. But we're going to do 4K gaming, and we're going to sort of showcase some more about the 39-inch 4K Korean monitor. If you didn't see it, it's a 4K monitor that's super cheap. It's got DisplayPort. It works reasonably well. A bunch of people bought them on the forum. Everybody's basically been happy with them, mostly. 99%. I mean, you never know. It's cheap. It's good.
I don't know. I freaking love mine. I
really like mine too.
This thing behind me, everyone asks, "Hey, what monitor is that behind you?" And it's the 40-inch Philips. That's like almost the same thing. I forgot the exact model number off the top of my head, but
yeah, don't buy that one.
Don't buy that one. And you know why I bought that one? It was recommended by PC Gamer. They gave it like an amazing review. They were like, "Oh my god, 4K gaming is actually a thing now." I bought it. It's pretty shitty. So it does game, and it's 60 hertz, and there's not a lot of lag, but there's a ton of ghosting in the gray colors, and there's a lot of banding and weird issues like that. The 4K from Korea that we have is better. It doesn't have all those issues, and it was cheaper. So, and after you remove the glass, oh my god, there's no glare. I'm right beside a window, and there's no glare. It's amazing.
Void your warranties. It's amazing. Well, it's not a perfect monitor, but it is, as of the time of this writing, it's like $580. But it's 4K and 60 hertz and DisplayPort 1.2 and all this other stuff. It does have a little bit of ghosting. Like if you have a brilliant white screen and you're moving like a solid red or a solid blue square around, there's a tiny little bit of ghosting. But on if you're looking at the Samsung U28D 590D, it absolutely destroys that monitor. But that's not even the point. It is 4K gaming with that and a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's really neat. The best 4K display that I saw was when we were in Taiwan, and it was a Chai Mei panel, and it's like, ooh, I need that one. And over there, it was about $700 American in Taiwan, and I need that one, but I can't seem to find a source to import it because it was perfect. There was no ghosting, there was no weird stuff, and it was also 4K and 40 inches, which is the magic number, 4K and 40 inches. And that sounds crazy.
Yeah,
but it's really not any more crazy than like a 34-inch ultra wide, because a 34-inch ultra wide, if you just make it taller, is going to be 40 inches. It's not really going to be physically any wider. Like a 40-inch and a 34-inch ultra wide are really about the same width. It's just that the 40-inch is taller. And so if you're going to go for the 34-inch ultra-wide, go for the 40-inch 4K. I promise. It's amazing. It sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing.
We're already on hardware right now, and you just reminded me. I actually shot a video of me deglassing this monitor, and I shot a video comparing this monitor to the Philips. We just haven't had time to edit the damn things yet. So yeah, I really need to edit the deglassing. People have been asking for that. It's super easy, guys, after you scare yourself. The thing that I was having trouble with, and I was freaking out and texting Wendell like it's not working. I wasn't applying enough heat. I was worried about applying too much heat, and my box cutter was getting stuck in the sticky stuff. It's like double-sided tape, like kind of a gooey, gunky, almost black tar stuff. I don't even know what it is, but the gunky stuff, I was not hot enough. So after you get it warm enough, then it just kind of slides through like butter. Use a small knife. And then, yeah. Anyway, let's get into the tech stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We segued. I'm sorry.
It's already derailed. We'll go through this part fast because it's about electrical cars. So BMW is going to be the first to deploy electrical 40-ton pick 'em up trucks. No, these aren't pick 'em up trucks. That's a southern thing. These are like Mack trucks, 40-ton freaking Mack trucks that are electric. And here's the thing. They're only going to go 100 kilometers. Which is like 3 miles, right? Kilometers. But anyway, it's only going to go 100 kilometers. And after that, it's going to need about 4 hours to charge. So I guess it'll, as long as you have a fleet of them, you'll have to factor that in, the 4-hour charging period. But it will cut back a lot on the overall fuel costs. Electricity is easier to produce, and especially throughout Europe, where, countries like Denmark, who are producing 140% of what they need as far as power, through wind energy. So they've got wind farms everywhere. So power is going to be the way. Electric vehicles. That's going to be the way of the future. And BMW is a pioneer here, and technology obviously has to get better. But so that's just a thing. They're the first.
I see this as delivery trucks, not long haul trucks, because long haul trucks, 100 kilometers is not that much. But for a delivery truck, 100 kilometers, that's enough to complete a delivery route in a workday. So that's important, that you can basically drive this thing around for 8 hours doing deliveries with it. So I think that in that sense, it's commercializable.
Well, for deliveries, though, wouldn't you have to have someone on board to distribute the goods? Or would you have the thing like UPS truck pulls up out front, you go and get your stuff? And then how do you stop that person from not taking someone else's stuff as well? Being like, ooh, that box says something like De Beers on it. And you're like, ooh, let me just take that box too.
I'm sure that the robotics situation will solve that. It'll be like a giant vending machine where there's like a thing that you walk up to and the package falls into a drawer and then you pull the drawer out and get the package. It's going to happen. You laugh. It's going to happen.
Then you have the same situation that you have with snack machines where the thing coils around and the thing gets stuck and you got 3 people out there shaking the delivery truck. I can see it now.
Have you not seen the nuclear explosion that is IKEA meets Japan? It's, because the Japanese people are really crazy about vending machines, which is kind of fun. You combine that with IKEA, and it's like, oh, look, I can get a new, living room suit, and it's a vending machine, and it's like, ta-da, Japan.
I can't even picture that. I'm picturing like a 6-story tall vending machine with the thing that drops down, so you got a couch like falling down into the drawer and like... bad. That's what I'm picturing. That's how I would do it because America.
When those trucks become sentient, it's like, feed me, Seymour, feed me.
This is the worst episode ever. Now let's go to Kansas City, where they're talking about self-driving cars, but they're talking about it from a sort of a different angle, and I think this is an important conversation to have. So Compute Midwest is going on, and they're talking about building infrastructure for the vehicles. So they're not necessarily talking about making the cars better. They're saying we need some smart infrastructure, and they sort of equated this to right now we're on dial-up, and we need to get these things on fiber. That's like the was it the metaphor or the simile? I don't know. They're both similes or similar. Probably a metaphor. Yeah, no, it's a simile. I don't know. I forgot what I said at this point. Anyway, so that's what they're talking about there.
Kansas City. Is it because of Google Fiber? Probably, but we don't know. So there it is.
Well, I guess the thing that they're saying is they need to develop smart systems so that the cars can communicate with one another, and then they can communicate with the surroundings. And basically, it's just tons of data floating around. The roads basically are communicating with the cars now. So that's what they're trying to do, and that's sort of a different angle and something that we haven't really thought about too awful much.
Google is buying up a lot of not mentioned in the article, which is really surprising because this is an official publication. They really should have done their homework. But planes have this wireless communication standard. Google's been buying up companies that use the wireless communication standard between planes. They want to extend the protocol that's used for preventing mid-air collisions and all sorts of other stuff like that to driverless cars. At least that's my guess. I haven't seen any memos or anything that say that that's what they're doing. But they're buying up the rights to Spectrum. And they seem to be buying up the rights to Spectrum and companies that are involved in producing these black boxes or reporter boxes. And so, like, if you get an old Cessna, you need to retrofit your old Cessna with these things that report the plane's position and help track it and blah, blah, blah. But they're also looking at applying the same kind of technology to driverless cars to have it sort of work the same way with driverless cars as it does with airplanes right now, so that airplanes are not super dependent, on... well, as dependent on, ground-based flight controllers. And so there doesn't seem to be any mention of that kind of thing in this article, which makes me sad because I think that's what's going on with that technology. But if you know any amateur pilots that are into technology, ask them about it. It's not really my thing, but I have some friends that are, and that's what they tell me.
Next up in the electrical car world, Uber has said to Tesla that if you can make 500,000 cars by 2020, 500,000 electric self-driving cars, not electric, self-driving, I'm sorry, but it might be electric as well. He said that they would buy them all. So 500,000 cars. That's an interesting thing there Uber's doing. So Uber's been having some issues with the way employment is handled in different areas of the world, like in California now. The employees are not really contractors anymore. They're employees, and they're supposed to get benefits and stuff. And if that starts to happen in other places, it'll cut into their profits. So I think they want to. I mean, they would love to go all electric, and they would love to go driverless by 2020. I don't know if the technology will be there by then, but they're ready to buy all of Uber's production. I mean, all of Uber's ready to buy all of Tesla's production. So that's kind of interesting. Let's talk about these solar panels that are solar freaking roadways. Remember that video, guys? I know everybody, we watched it and it was fun. So it's going to come back around now because we're having some headlines about some studies they've been doing in the Netherlands. Well, actually, they've put it into practice. They've actually put it in the ground. They have sidewalks and bike paths, and they have a 70-meter test area. And they said that during the test period, which is 6 months, this 70-meter area should have been able to power a small house for a year. So, I mean, that area could power two homes for a year. Only 70 meters. If they did the entire, city, maybe it would be something. But I can already see right now people are going to use this as, an argument, and the solar freaking roadways video is going to get another 1 million hits. I still don't think it's 100% practical, but I do think it's an amazing idea to use, bike paths and sidewalks. Redoing the entire infrastructure of the roads, that would be kind of cool, but I just don't see that as being practical just yet. All the new bike paths and all the new sidewalks everywhere should be like this. That's what I think. Then you could also put some conduits underneath them to run fiber and stuff too, which would be a good idea. So all new developments and all new building stuff. Look at what's happening in the Netherlands. It is good.
I like the idea of solar bike paths and walking paths and pedestrian areas more than I do roads with commercial vehicles, because the bike path and pedestrian area places are going to hold up for wear a lot better than roads. So it still doesn't seem terribly practical, but if they're able to make it, as easy as laying down brick or a coat of paint or something, then maybe it's worth exploring.
All right, let's do a little shameless self-promotion right here. We have lots of color in the store, and it is scaring me. If you scroll down to the older stuff, it's like black and gray and
colors
monochrome.
Other than black, not approved by Logan.
So yeah, I was talking to John, Epic John. He's the guy who does the store, and he was like, "Do you want to do some, shirts with color?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know anything about color, man." And he was like, "Well, I got some ideas." I was like, "You may do all these ideas, and we will see how they sell." So if you guys want some shirts that are not just black and white, go check out what we have in the store right now. We got some different colors, and if you guys want to see more colors, vote with your dollars, and we'll be able to order colors based upon what you like. If there's some colors that you really like that we don't have, let us know and we'll see what we can do. And also be sure to grab up the shirt of the month here. We've got the 8-bit Beijing skyline. There's the Beijing CCTV video building, whatever that was I just said. And there's our little logo on our own building there. So we've this is a real picture. This is a photograph of Beijing. Anyway, let us know what you guys think of that. I quite enjoy that artwork. Good old 8-bit cyberpunk artwork. And that's over at epicpants.com. So now back to the regularly scheduled tech. That's enough plugging of our stuff. So as you can see here, guys, what we've done is, if you go to the Tech Syndicate YouTube page, you'll see all of our other channels, even the ones we don't use that much. And as we grow and as we get situated here in Seattle, I'm sure I'll get some interns and we'll be able to make more videos for the How to Live channel. If I do some really stupid stuff, I'll throw it on Shenanigans. Wendell has his team of developers. They're going to be streaming some games with very color commentary. Our shirts, the only thing that's the only kind of color I normally like is color commentary, so I'm a little weird about the shirt still, but yeah. So that'll be going on Beer Games Beer. You'll see it over there. And Tech Linux, Wendell's been doing a few videos for Tech Linux, and I'll be doing some more as soon as I stop doing my album creation. I've been on Windows for a while, finishing the Zweihander album. And there's the hardware channel, so they're all there.
We have the fairly technical ZFS OMG We Recovered Your NAS video. And I don't know if we'll do another video, like a shorter video on the main channel that's like, hey, here's all the crazy that went into it. But there's a longer video that's like, hey, let's dive into the ZFS source code and start changing things willy-nilly in an effort to get this thing back online. So,
and that's why the Zweihander stuff is now back online and working. I have the project files. They were all backed up on the NAS. And then when the NAS died, I was like, my music, it's gone. So now that they're back, I'm finishing up the album as quickly as I possibly can. And it should be a fun album, I hope. Anyway, let's talk about encryption. The war on encryption is real and it's coming and it's going to get pretty nasty. So, in the UK, the Snoopers Charter that's the thing that they're calling whatever the drafted bill is. It's just called the Snoop. It's the.
It is the Snoopers Charter, in fact.
It is. Yeah. It's got another name, but yeah.
You know, I really, it's like every time, it's like I feel bad because every time we mention something happening there, it's something about, like the House of Lords and pedophilia in the people that are running England. But I swear there was another article this week that was something about some guy was caught and I don't even know. And it's like, do they want this stuff to break through the encryption because that's going to somehow end? They seem to have a chronic problem with that good old-fashioned police work would probably solve. I'm not sure they really need any more technology to solve those kinds of problems, but it seems like it's going to create more problems than it would actually solve. I mean, the stuff here that already does not have encryption or that already has a little bit of encryption, it's world record. It's like, 200 million people's health records were stolen and 21 million federal employees' data was stolen. It's like, yeah, we want to keep the encryption away because these things, this is acceptable collateral damage. Basically, everybody can know everything about everybody else, and it's totally fine for people on the black market to be selling all of your information, and you can't protect yourself with encryption. That just seems insane. It seems just completely it's like, we only want a little bit of a backdoor, and it's like, well, do you understand math? Because math doesn't work that way. Not exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the US's response, and the what's going on in the UK right now. They're saying, listen, if you do not remove your encryption, then I'm sorry, you're blocked. Like Facebook may be blocked, and Apple stuff may be blocked, and they may end up blocking a lot of things. What you were just talking about, Wendell, the response in America is like, you know what, you guys can have your encryption, but we have to have a backdoor into everything. And there's no specifics here. They're not saying exactly how the backdoor will be implemented. They're just saying that everything must have a backdoor, and it just has to be there. That's what it is. So it's a different way to do things, but I wonder which one's going to be the most damaging to the tech companies. I imagine they'll both be extremely damaging to both countries as far as the tech companies and the infrastructure and that sort of thing goes, but I don't know.
There are a lot of similarities between what Cameron is pushing and what the FBI is pushing in the States in terms of backdoors and encryption and that sort of thing. It doesn't seem to be that they really want to outlaw encryption entirely in the UK, but they want to outlaw anything that they can't get a backdoor to. And I really don't understand what the obsession is, because it doesn't, just because there's technology now, it does not replace good old-fashioned police work. There doesn't need to be this, huge panopticon that is keeping track and recording every teeny tiny piece of minutia ever. If you think that this can go, if you think this is completely fine, I would encourage you to look at U.S. history and McCarthyism. And I'm sure that there are really good examples in European history, but I'm not a very good student of the histories. But McCarthyism in the U.S., if you're not familiar, was during the scare on communism. And so this guy would just point at random people, basically, and say, I heard that you were a registered member of the Communist Party. And it was totally the case that the guy was, just pointing to his political adversaries and his political enemies. And it was a train wreck. It was a train wreck in every sense of the word. It's going to happen with these data sets.
It's basically, we found a witch, may we burn her? That's exactly what it is. It's the same thing. So
it's just this couldn't possibly end badly. This is going to be great. We're going to save the children by strangling them with our bare hands. It's like, wait, I don't think that's how that works, guys. This is not good.
Oh man, I want a T-shirt of that. I'm not sure how it would work. Maybe just an illustration. Someone draw that. Because it's. I think as the newspaper would say is it's poignant. All right, let's move on here. Remember that massive hack we talked about with the U.S. government? Well, it's way bigger than we thought. Now it's about 21.5 million compromised individuals, or 19.7. Yeah, this is ridiculous because not only is it just the employees, but also friends, family, and a whole bunch of other stuff. They were gathering data on like everyone around these people. It's like, you know what, we need to know about this guy that works for us, but we also need to know what his wife's doing, what his kids are doing, what his friends are doing, just in case, you know. Yeah, so now they have access to all that data as well. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I'm going to say there. But
among the data that the hacker stole was criminal, financial, health, employment, residency histories, as well as information about their families and acquaintances. Again, do we really need this kind of a database? And if we do need this kind of a database, do we really need this kind of a database in a way that is so portable? Do we really need to be able to it's like, oh, there was a disaster. Quick, let me just go to GoDaddy and register a new website and hit a button. It's like, yeah, everything's back up on GoDaddy. Woohoo, amazing. It's like, no, I don't think we need to be able to do that. Why was this easy to do? That's probably bad. It should have been some horrible convoluted process that involved connecting to a 3270 mainframe and like getting the records out from punch card or something. That would have prevented the hackers from stealing it.
punch card, I think that's about where the technology is at a lot of these places. And the ones that are online have no idea what they're doing online, and that's why we have breaches like this. But yeah, I think the Navy's still using the Navy still uses punch cards, right? Isn't that how they do things?
I can hear it like I can hear in like in our virtual audience. Like I'm looking out across all the people in the audience. It's all just crickets. No one understands anything about mainframes. But I can see one guy in the back standing up. I can see that he's got a white hair. He's clapping and he's saying, "Yeah, woo, mainframes, woo!" But nobody else has any idea in the audience what's going on.
Let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit about the ISPs. Today it's very small. I want to applaud Senator Bernie Sanders, soon to be President Bernie Sanders. Yes, he can freaking win, so shut your mouth with your whole "he can't win" thing, because that's not good for anybody. Anyway, future President Bernie Sanders has written a letter to Tom Wheeler, the chairman of the FCC, and he's asking Tom Wheeler to investigate the prices that the ISPs are charging to the customers. He thinks that it's ridiculous. He thinks that there are some mysterious fees here. And he also points out that only 37% of Americans have more than one option. Only 37% are not living somewhere where there's a monopoly on the ISPs. That's ridiculous.
Of that 37%, 80% of the 37%, that other option is IP over carrier pigeon, which actually has a standard.
Yeah. So I live in a place that I have multiple options. It's wonderful. I can have Comcast, which will do 150 down. Not too bad. I mean, once you go to Asia and then come back, it's really bad. But it seems pretty cool. Then my other option is CenturyLink. And when I called them, I was like, how fast? And they were like, extremely fast, sir. Can we have your credit card number? I was like, well, how fast? Really fast. Fast internet. And I was like, can you give me a number? And they had to like put me on hold for a second. They came back. And they were like, sir, you'll be getting 5 down and like 0.7 up. And I was like, I just hung up. That was it. So that's my option. And I live somewhere where I actually have options. So I think the true number for real options might be even lower than 37. But it's cool that he's
it's much lower than 37, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. They've engineered it this way. It's almost like they wanted it like this. So he wrote a letter asking for an investigation, not really asking for them to do anything yet, just he wants an investigation so the people can know.
The other piece of shenanigans here that's not mentioned, but that is being looked at carefully, has to do with data caps. And so the situation is, if ISPs are going to say, give you a $50 a month internet plan, and for that $50 a month internet plan, you get 500 gigabytes. If they then say, well, for every gigabyte over that, we're going to charge you $5, that's outrageously expensive. They're not going to be allowed to do that. At least the writing on the wall here. I don't think this is an official thing yet, but some of the memos and some of the other stuff that Wheeler has said that is related to this seems to be that, if you're paying, if in your regular monthly plan, like, $50 a month for 500 gigabytes, whatever the cost per gigabyte that works out to be, the overage fees cannot be more than that. And they probably should be less than that, because they figure that the first $50 is subsidizing the infrastructure. And then after that, you're paying for data fees. And not that I agree with data caps, but I think that that's going to hurt cell phone companies the worst, because a lot of cell phone plans are like, the first 20 gigabytes is not an entirely unreasonable number. It is only mostly unreasonable number. And then the overages are completely insane. And so I think that that's good that it's like, hey, data is data. Data should be priced accordingly. Pricing data, exponentially doesn't make any sense because it's not a finite resource. So it is what it is.
Now, Verizon, this is actually an interesting article here because Verizon, they still got copper in a lot of places, and they've still got the plain old telephone service or POTS, as it were. And it's in a lot of parts in the country, they haven't been maintaining the infrastructure. It's crumbling, and people are experiencing severe outages. But they are laying fiber in some of these areas. And the areas that they have alternatives like fiber, or in some areas, they just put a 4G antenna on your house. But they're telling the customers that they have to upgrade or they're going to just disconnect their service. So, and some of the customers even have, copper that still kind of works. I'm saying but still kind of works. But they're telling these customers that they have to upgrade to either fiber or something else, or else they're done. And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that because it is pushing people towards fiber, but at the same time, it's removing their ability to choose. And I guess there's probably some more nuances here in this story, but it's interesting that they're doing this, that they're forcing people to use the service mainly it's because they don't want to maintain their old copper and that sort of thing. That's the bottom line, is they don't want to maintain their old stuff. So I don't know. Should people be forced to upgrade?
Well, I'm not sure that people should be forced to upgrade because they've already paid for the infrastructure. I guess if there's no cost option, that would be a thing. But there is an ingenious thing that we saw at Computex in Taiwan, which was the old POTS telephone system is set up for DC backup power supply. Like the phone system, the phone network provides its own power. Power is not required. The phone can actually run off the power that copper provides. Of course, fiber can't be that way because it's light. But there was a company in Taiwan that was making all this really cool DSL gear and fiber repeater gear. And so they had a box that was sort of DSL on one side and fiber optics on the other. But the DSL was not to carry the fiber optic signal. It was actually powered by that, and the DSL part was a management circuit. They had a version that was an analog modem so that you could dial in, and that would work fine. And then they had another version that ran off of a copper phone line, but provided a copper Ethernet out, but was a fiber termination thing. The idea being that you could run new fiber on telephone poles in city infrastructure, basically, that would be powered by the plain old telephone network, because at this point, a lot of people do not have landlines, or businesses that used to have 50 copper landlines probably now just have a T1, or they already have a fiber optic connection. So there's all kinds of unused copper everywhere. This is a really cool invention because for even rural cities, they could deploy this and actually have their fiber optic repeaters and fiber optic transceivers and stuff actually run off of the old copper phone system network, because the power requirements and things like that for gigabit Ethernet or gigabit fiber optics have gotten to the point where you can actually get that running in under one ringer equivalence of power. A ringer equivalent is a unit of measure on the old POT system. One ringer is like one of the old school like Bell South telephones that you could conk somebody over the head with and it would make a funny sound. So that was neat. We need that, but of course Verizon is like, we don't really need that. Let's pull it out and put in fiber. They totally should put in fiber. And if you have the right kind of fiber modem, it'll have a battery backup. As long as the infrastructure on the other end is going to be kept up, that'll be okay. But also the other thing that happens is Verizon, like in Corpus Christi in New York City, when the tornado ripped out all the copper, they want to put 4G back. And I can tell you right now, 4G is not going to work in a disaster. When something happens and 1 million people are trying to make a call, that wireless infrastructure is not going to work. The copper infrastructure is designed for those kinds of disasters, and it'll basically be okay in those kind of disasters. And these networks are not built to that level of resiliency.
Have you, one of the things that's happening as a direct response to all this nonsense, the cities are getting fed up, their citizens need good internet, so they're making their own, they're laying their own fiber, and they're, trying to start their own high-speed initiatives. So 32 cities, I guess back in October of last year, got together and they made the Next Century Cities Coalition. And now it's expanded to 101 cities they're committed to doing it, even if they have to do it themselves. And it's going to be difficult, but they're committed to doing this. We got a little map here so you guys can see if your city is one of them. It looks like Lexington and Louisville both have committed to run fiber. So that's kind of cool. And then you guys can basically just zoom around the map here. There's 102, and now 102 cities. So since that, Kansas
it's
there.
Funny.
School. Hey, Seattle's on there. Good.
Louisville was actually mentioned in the 1996 Telecommunications Act. It was like By
Yeah.
2004, a citizen can buy a 45 megabit symmetrical connection in Louisville for only $20 a month. If you give us all these tax breaks, we promise we're going to deliver that, and it's going to be amazing. Anybody in Louisville can get a 45 meg symmetric internet connection for $20 a month. You let me know.
Ooh, Missoula,
Zero
Montana's on the
respondents.
list. Look at that, Missoula, Montana, Boise, Idaho. There's some all the places I want to go hang out for a little while, and I can go get my work done there because they have. Ooh, Missoula is beautiful. So I'm zooming. I'm like, now I don't even want to do the show. I'm just going to zoom around for the map for a little while and see where the internet's going to be. Let's see here. All right, all over, Sacramento. Not much up here in the. All right, I'm distracted right now. I'll do this after the show. The Pirate Bay founders have been acquitted in the criminal copyright case, and the funny part about this is that they were all allegedly involved in criminal activities between September 11th and November 2013. And the reason they were acquitted was not because, of any sort of legal stuff where they were like, the Pirate Bay doesn't actually do any pirating themselves. They just allow people to do whatever they want and they're not responsible. That's not the reason. The reason that they were acquitted was because they sold the website in 2006 and nobody could prove that they had a hand in anything during the time which they were allegedly committing crimes. So
Actually,
I think it's
one
funny
of the guys was in jail during the period, so
yeah. He's like,
he was
yeah.
running it from jail.
That's what happens a lot of times when they put someone in jail. There's like I remember when Kevin Mitnick, he's the famous phone phreaker and all that. Back in the day, when they put him in jail, they wouldn't let him come near anything, like anything that had electronics. They were like, be sure to keep your walkie-talkie away from him. He might hack it. Just like, and then he'll be, and then the next thing you know, he's going to be hacked into AT&T's mainframes again by touching your walkie-talkie. Or they made sure that he was never allowed to, touch phones and that sort of thing. So I bet it's the same kind of thing with them. They were like, I bet he's hacking from inside that cell somehow. He's programmed the grit and the dirt and the floor to do things.
You got to read between the lines a little bit here. So this case, there was no basis for bringing this case. I mean, haha, funny, we joke, but there was no basis for bringing this case. But the thing that really set me off about this is that the anti-piracy adversaries that had brought the case in Belgium said, well, technically we agree with the court, said Oliver Maturelik, director of the Belgian Entertainment Association. So, okay, if you agree with the court, then why were you doing this? Just to harass them? And if so, they should be able to collect large sums of money from you for the harassment and the level of effort that they had to put into responding it. Because that, to me, that's tantamount to saying, yeah, we didn't really have a case, but we wanted to do it anyway just so we could harass them. Sounds good.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know if I can see the guys involved with the Pirate Bay. I don't know if I can actually see them following up on that or trying to countersue or anything like that, even though they probably have legal grounds to do so. I don't know if I can see them doing that. They seem to be more of the type who are like, yeah, whatever, we have things to do that are not this. They're almost so anti-establishment. But they're almost so anti-establishment that they won't even use it to their benefit. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, whatever, just go play court, guys, have fun. That's what I think that's what I imagine.
That's how one of them ended up in jail.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on and talk about some nerdy hardware type things. Oh, wait. We've got these robots. So in Japan, we have the Megabots, right? And wait a second. No, Megabots is USA. And then Japan down here, we've got this video. It's I'll bring these things up so we can see them. So in Japan, we talked about this giant robot a few weeks ago, I guess. Anyway, some guys in the USA, they built their own giant robot. It's more of a mech than a robot. Two people have to pilot this thing, and it can shoot paintballs at up to 100 miles an hour, 12,000 pounds, and
what could possibly go wrong?
Well, they challenged the Japanese guys, and they were like, "We want to fight." So they really want to fight, and the Japanese guys responded. The funniest thing about their response was like, the Japanese guys were like challenging them. They're like, "Wow, that thing is ugly. It's basically like the ugliest thing I've ever seen with a gun strapped to it. How very American." That's why martial arts was invented in the East, and not here.
The
Here's
robot's
just
not done yet. It's going to have 2 Hummers for shoes.
Yep, it's all martial, and they're martial arts. So, yeah, theirs is pretty damn nice. Anyway, that's going to be it's going to be about a year, and not even sure how this is going to work because both of these are essentially the mech suits. They're piloted, so I'm not sure if robot is the correct term here. Everyone's calling it robot, but it's more of a mech suit, and I'm not sure how they're both going to fight. Someone's going to get I don't know. Someone's going to get hurt. If it's just a paintball battle, is that cool? Like, it's we've got these giant robots. Let's put them on a boat and take them across the ocean, and then put them together, and then have them shoot paintballs at each other. That's kind of underwhelming. I mean, it's cool to see giant robots, but I want them to punch each other. I want them to shoot rockets, but you can't do that if it's piloted.
Somebody put a supercut on YouTube of the new BattleBot series with just the robot battles from the entire season, and it was like 20 minutes long. So that's a show where it's like 3 hours of filler and 5 minutes of action, and somebody was like, no, I've had enough of this. No. And so they just made a YouTube video that's the entire season in like 20 minutes. It's like, yes, thank you. I needed that.
That's the way television is right now. Television's like, hey, we have to have this much segment so that we can sell this many commercials. So let's just hype the hell out of this stuff. And like, after these commercials, there may be some action. Just stay tuned, because if you look away, then they'll fight and you'll have missed it. But until then, we're going to talk about all this bullshit. So anyway, IBM has already made some chips using a 7 nanometer manufacturing process. They're staying ahead of Moore's Law here, and they are possibly 4 times more powerful than what we currently have available. Lots and lots of cool things going on here. And one thing that's nice is IBM, I mean, they're one of the biggest research companies in the world. They're partnering with New York State, Global Foundries, Samsung, and so I think it's cool that they're partnering up with some people. So that means we're going to see some 7 nanometer stuff happening. That'll be fun. And Intel's currently, what are they on, like 10 nanometer? I guess that's their next thing.
Yeah.
So this will probably keep us going for the next few years anyway. I'm still
Intel's
the heat
10 nanometer may not really be. I mean, Intel's 10 nanometer. It's not always an apples to apples comparison, especially with Intel. They've sort of been fudging the numbers a little bit lately. So Intel's 10 nanometer may be more like 12 nanometers in the IBM vernacular. So
yeah. All right, we've got a couple more things. Let me open those up. AMD drivers, how about that? So the new AMD drivers are out, 15.7, and apparently they're improving the performance in many games, which I've already been talking about. The drivers, I think we're going to see improvements, and also, the AMD cards, on paper they look way faster than what we're getting with our benchmark. So that's one step. I think DirectX 12 is the next step. But it also adds some pretty interesting technologies like the virtual super resolution, which is that's basically the response to NVIDIA's dynamic super resolution. That's where you have like a 4K game, or you can play the game at 4K even on your 1080p monitor. It takes the 4K and resamples it for 1080p, and it looks way sharper than the game normally would at 1080p, like a lot sharper. So that's kind of cool. That's the wrong thing. Where's the other AMD article? There it is. So AMD has officially canceled 20 nanometer stuff, and they're taking it'd be a $33 million charge they're taking for that. Yeah, this is kind of weird. Like, I don't know what they're up to here. Yeah.
So yeah, we were joking about this, and their stock price is at $2. It's unfortunate because HBM, I think, is the future, and the Fury X really is 8 teraflops. Like, it really is delivering 8 teraflops. So it should be mind-blowingly fast, but it's not, and so we don't know what the problem is. It probably is down to drivers. We're not really sure, and we're not really sure what to make of this news. So AMD saying, well, this isn't really a big deal. We're going to go with the FinFET thing, and the FinFET thing is still going to let us miniaturize and shrink and reduce power consumption, and everything's going to be fine. But I don't know enough about it to really know if that's an honest evaluation of the situation, or if they've got something up their sleeve with the production that they're doing to actually be able to pull this off. You know what would be interesting that we were speculating about earlier was if Valve would buy AMD. Think about what that could mean. If Valve bought AMD instead of Microsoft, it would sort of get Valve's foot in the door with hardware in a way that they would be able to do, their Steam boxes. It's not a console exactly, but they would be able to sort of solve some of the problems with the architecture on Linux, I feel like with somebody like Valve and AMD with their existing resources working together, the drivers problems would go away on Linux, that Valve would have top-tier, top-notch support for AMD. AMD would become the premier thing for gaming on Linux. But being able to game on Linux means that you would be able to game in a more lightweight way than was ever really possible before. I mean, at that point, the games would basically be running on the raw hardware of PCs. And so architecturally, in that sense, they're more like consoles, but you've got all the horsepower of a PC. I mean, it seems like a win-win, and that would be crazy. And Gabe's got enough money to pull it off. I mean, at $2 a share, he could probably, walk downstairs and break open the piggy bank and just be like, okay, will this be enough? Will this work? Will this be a thing? And then Valve would also have their fingers in Microsoft, Sony with the PlayStation, and the Wii, Nintendo with the Wii. I mean, they would at least have the industry connections there, and so we might actually start to see, some Valve doing some stuff, maybe, even though Valve kind of competes. I don't know. It would be really interesting.
That would create so many weird issues. Like, I mean,
it would create a lot of weird issues.
I'm not saying like issues that are bad. It would just change the way things are done, because right now you've got AMD being used in the consoles. In the future, I mean, would Valve maybe be like, yeah, you guys can use AMD, but you got to run Steam instead of your crappy interface or whatever you guys want, your PlayStation? No one would go for that. I mean, Sony and Microsoft would never go for that. So they would probably be using NVIDIA, or I think the next generation is probably going to use Qualcomm or ARM or something like that, like something really low power and really something to build really small consoles that, I don't know. I'm just speculating right now. The consoles are going away.
Here's one way that it could work, and here's the real. So it's not even. There were some rumors about AMD being split off into a couple of different companies, maybe the hardware company and the other company. The real thing seems to be AMD really does have a piece of hardware that's 8 teraflops. This is crazy. The drivers and the software maybe are the place. They've got Mantle, so they've got some good developers. But I think that until AMD has a close-knit gaming thing, that they're going to be at a disadvantage to NVIDIA. And so NVIDIA, has the whole GameWorks thing, and stuff happens with GameWorks and blah, blah, blah. But what if, even if it's not a buyout necessarily, what if Valve went to AMD and said, look, we know you're hurting for cash. We've got station wagons of cash. Why don't we align our interests a little bit? We'll grease the wheels. We need to combine our developers. We need to put everything together. This is the plan. This could be revolutionary. Valve, with all their game development experience, and AMD with all of their stuff, could combine forces, and it would be like the less evil version of GameWorks. It would actually benefit the community. It would benefit Linux. It would benefit pretty much everybody in the entire spectrum of the gaming industry. Because Valve would get more sales out of it. They would get better performance on lower end hardware, certainly. They would get better support even on the Windows side with DirectX 12, because DirectX 12 came to like the 290 series, probably because how could it not? Because it's the same hardware. And you could see better performance on Linux and better drivers on Linux, because that's where Valve's interests are aligned, and AMD would be more inclined to free up some of those intellectual property controls and free up some of the other stuff. Because, I mean, let's face it, their software is not cutting edge anyway. Would open sourcing it really be that detrimental to their bottom line, because they're already behind? Then they could leapfrog, and we could have a really competitive space with NVIDIA and AMD again. I think this idea is so good that if AMD doesn't do it, NVIDIA is going to do it, and then AMD is going to be even at more of a disadvantage.
I can see NVIDIA really loving this idea, because they love things that are exclusive, and they love ways that they can create technologies that work really well on their stuff and kind of work on the other guy's stuff, but at a much worse performance. They love that kind of stuff. And I wonder whether, AMD or NVIDIA were to team up with Valve, I wonder if that would give them an advantage for certain future technologies that come out. Would it be like, the next version of whatever Hairworks or the TressFX or whatever, is that going to be something that Valve rolls out for Vulkan, the Vulkan API, and is way more optimized for whatever platform that they are working together with? Or if they own AMD, it's more optimized for that? Is it going to give one of the brands an unfair advantage? And is it going to, basically hurt the consumers by removing a choice or making one choice just not nearly as good as the other choice? So that would be the concern that I would have if something like this would happen. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Valve should just go in and buy up AMD and be like, hey, let's do this? Do you guys think that would be a good thing? Are there some other nuances to this that we are, missing? I'm not going to stay on this for the entire rest of the episode, but are there some other nuances in this argument or in this idea that we're missing, let us know in the comments. It could be
Ask us, and we'll respond on the next episode of the Inbox because it might be a thing.
yeah. All right, moving right along, let's talk about some science stuff here. So how about genetically modifying mosquitoes? Here's some genetic modification that I'm kind of for. They've genetically modified mosquitoes because they're having lots of trouble, especially right now they're trying this in Brazil. And skeeters. Popular Science says skeeters. I just read the sub line or whatever. Yeah. So was it dengue fever in Brazil is really bad, like 16 million cases a year. They call it the bone breaker. It's excruciating. You vomit and all this other stuff, and your joints hurt severely. And it's spread mostly by these mosquitoes. So they've genetically engineered the mosquitoes to not produce offspring. That's it. And they've reduced the population by 95%. So it's an interesting use of genetic modification. I guess the question is, not having all the mosquitoes, is that going to do anything to the ecosystem? I don't know. It means less cases or fewer cases of the fever, not less, fewer cases of the fever. But what's that going to do to the other animals who, like the bat population and the spider population? What's that going to do?
I was reading the report from Randy, and they left off the next sentence, which was, it reduced the population of disease-carrying insects by 95%. However, the remaining 5% of the disease-carrying population eventually bred and became disease-carrying super mutants that were flying around and destroying people in the wasteland. So, yeah.
They obviously haven't played Fallout, so they don't know about these things. And you know what? One other thing that's interesting is the mosquito population that they already have was resistant to the pesticides that they were using. So they were killing a lot of stuff, but mosquitoes are like, whatever. We've evolved. So it's just another step.
They're going to evolve. Those 5% are going to go on and breed, and we're going to have like mutant malaria super mosquitoes. It's going to be bad. This is how we get super mutants, guys. This is how it happens.
Yeah, and pretty soon they're not even going to be biting people. What they're going to do is they're just going to start launching their basically little disease torpedoes, and they'll have like. All right, let's check out what Boeing's been working on, because this is kind of awesome. It's a jet that's powered by nuclear explosions. Fusion.
So more technology from Fallout right there.
There it is. So you've got your generator hooked up to your turbine in the front. You've got a couple lasers that shoot some radioactive material, creating a small fusion reaction, extreme heat, and then it's going to exhaust either helium or hydrogen out the back at an extreme rate, creating tons of thrust. And that's what they're working on there. There's the patent all the way down here, but it's pretty interesting. I wonder how comfortable people will be knowing that that's what's happening, you know?
This is only a patent, too, so we don't know if they've got an actual working version of this, because that's a thing.
That's what Boeing's working on. Let's check out what Airbus is working on over here. Have you seen their patent? Their patent for bicycle seats in plane cabins? While they're trying to figure out lasers and fusion for flight over at Boeing, at Airbus, they're like, let's make them sit on bicycle seats. So this is actually one of their patents right here. That's exactly what I wanted when I was going to fly, is a bicycle seat. That's
just, pack fun. Everybody in, it'll be fine. It's like,
yeah.
If they're going to do this, I don't know why we wouldn't do the whole sedative thing. It's like you just take a sedative when you're boarding the plane. Like the loading dock workers, Larry and Bob, just load you up on a sled, just stick you on a shelf, close the thing. You got oxygen, and you're just completely unconscious for the entire flight, crammed in a box somewhere. I mean, for really, it's like let's pack as many people on a plane as possible. Let's just do that. I mean, come on, just knock me out, stick me in a box, it'll be fine.
I mean, the least that you guys could do is free whiskey.
And the least that they could do is knock me unconscious so I don't remember the damn thing.
Well, that's the
they
same
can
idea,
do
right?
whatever they want. Look, how did all these bruises get here? What the hell happened to me? It's like Weekend at Bernie's on the plane. It's like the crew is like doing all this crazy stuff. It'd be great. I think it'd be awesome.
You've just given them a great idea, because now they're like, ooh, and then we can charge people who have a fetish. Never mind. Let's
When
just go ahead and take
when
a
I
look
got
at
off
this
the
war.
plane, I'm looking at my Twitter feed, and it's like, what the hell has been going on? What did they do? There's all these selfies with me unconscious in compromising situations. I think it'll be fine. Why don't we have an airline that does this? We call it like Air Nap or Air Out of It or something.
Well, someone will think of a good name in the comments. I'm waiting on you, Coked Up Canary. You've got to give us a good name for this. All right. The Warcraft film is pretty much finished. As they're saying, they're waiting on 9 or 10 effect shot. I'm not sure if any of our audience is looking forward to the Warcraft movie, but it's supposedly almost finished. And then they're going to wait for the right time to release it. So they're not just going to release it whenever. They're going to wait until there's a ton of people waiting to go see it or something. I don't know. So, yeah, that's a thing. And Ubisoft, right? So there's an interesting thing here because digital games are a thing, but when you're Ubisoft and you have a game on the PlayStation, it's, after launch, the physical copy goes down in price way faster than the digital copy, and the digital copy will stay the premium price for a long time. And someone was like, dude, what's up with this? You can go buy Far Cry 4 for $25 in a box on Amazon. It wasn't the idea here that digital is going to be way less expensive to produce, so therefore you should be able to have sales and that sort of thing. And the response from the CEO of Ubisoft is kind of interesting because it's basically his response. I'll sum it up really easily. Is like his basic response was, well, it's way easier to suck people dry of their money by doing it this way. On PC, it's really common that games go on sale, and there's huge sales, and also digital is a big thing on PC, whereas on console, buying things in a box is still king. That's still the way things work. So if someone goes to the store and buys it in a box, we're going to give them a discount because there's more people doing that. And if they want to buy it on the store through digital, they're going to have to pay for it. I mean, that's essentially what he was saying. It's just the way that they make the most money.
He's left out a really important detail here, though. So he's not lying, except maybe he's definitely guilty of the sin of omission.
It's equivocation.
Yes, and the thing you got to think of here is that with digital versions, you're competing with your own retailers. With the digital version, you don't really have resellers. You need the resellers to resell the stuff, but you yourself, when you're selling, need to be the most expensive option. There's literally no other option to do it any other way. If they were undercutting the resellers would return to them the games that they had bought, which will cost them even more money than not having sold it in the first place, because they would have shipped them the game, done all the stuff, and then the reseller would ship it all back. And so not only would they lose the money from not having sold the game, they would lose the money from having had the game tied up for that long, and the interest on the loan and shipping fees, and I don't even know what all else. It would just end really badly. So the retailers have to always have the best deal versus the direct distribution, as long as we're sort of in this sort of transitionary model. The direct digital distribution will always be better, but the guy can't lower the price even though the profit margins are a lot better, because otherwise all of the distribution places will be super upset. Amazon would lose their mind. All the other distribution places would lose their mind. And that's the value. The value is in the relationship between the distribution centers and the other stuff, because people do want to just go to Walmart and buy stuff, or they want to buy something from Amazon because that's where they're already shopping. They don't necessarily want to do it anywhere else. Steam is sort of changing that on the PC side of the world, but again, you don't want to compete. Like if somebody's got a console and somebody's got a PC and they see those as equal because they have brain damage, then they're going to say, oh, well, I can just do it here and I can get a deal and see it's cheaper and it's fine, because they've never heard of a Steam sale. So it's not exactly the same, but it's not really the whole story either.
And something we can draw from that and tell everybody on the PC Master Race subreddits and other places like that where people tend to get into arguments with console owners, stop arguing with people with brain damage. That'll be the end of the show right now.
It's like arguing with a turnip. I mean, come on.
Oh, God.
Sorry, have I done something bad?
Yeah, we're probably going to get nothing bad from it.
You can direct your hate mail toward me. It's fine.
We have a hate mail account set up. It's neckbeard@techsyndicate.com. So just send any hate mail to neckbeard@techsyndicate.com. And maybe
Actually,
we should do an inbox segment just with hate mail. That would be so much fun.
It was, yeah. The only reason I've got sort of console on the brain right now is because I was reading a really fascinating. There's sometimes I follow these things where independent devs get together and they're talking about really high level technical stuff about stuff they're doing with their games and how they're doing development and tessellation and packing and those sorts of things. And these are people that are not working on indie games necessarily. These are people working in the industry in large organizations that don't necessarily want to make it public, what they're talking about in their projects, and sometimes they got to be a fly on the wall in those situations. And those developer, and they talk about their problems, and it's like, I'm having some really terrible problems with these nth order polynomials. Can somebody help me? And so that's a thing. But anyway, the current sort of if I could distill down the stuff that I've read lately into just sort of some general sentiments, it's really interesting the things that are happening in PC land with memory utilization on the graphics card. So you get the 390X with 8 gig, but then you get the Fury X with 4 gig. A lot of game companies are putting a lot of developer time. They're tasking these developers with optimizing things for optimizing the stuff for memory, like the amount of texture memory that it uses, because current titles are hitting texture memory limits front, left, right, and center on consoles. And so the benefit from that is the games that are also going to be ported to PC also tend to get to keep most or all of those texture optimizations. And so that's why we still have a lot of really cool games that basically work okay with 4 gig cards. Because the consoles just can't, or 3.5 gigabyte cards, as the case may be, because the consoles just can't handle it. And I thought that was interesting that significant amounts of developer time are being spent dealing with that, whereas historically the mantra has always been, the hardware is going to catch up, it'll be fine. But because we've basically got new consoles that are not due to be replaced for several years, maybe it's a problem.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks again, guys, for checking out everything in the store, and let us know what you think of the multiple different colors that are there. Yeah, it's exciting. All right, we'll see you guys in the comments, and always, feedback is welcome. And should we plug the inbox thing real quick? Yeah, let's do that. If you guys have any questions or comments that you want to see on the inbox video when we make our next one very soon, just head over to the forum and the categories here. If you go down in the categories, the inbox will be under the, where is it, under the community? I don't remember where we put the inbox. Yep, there it is, under the community. So yeah, techsyndicate.com, go to the top, bring down, click on community, and there you'll see the inbox area. Just go in there and post some stuff. We'll answer some questions. All right, guys, we'll see you very soon.